Today, I'd like to take you back in history to the time when the Bolt EV was not synonymous with fire, and when getting behind the wheel of Chevy's European-influenced hot hatch did nothing but bring an immense smile to everyone's face. And then I'm gonna tell you about how Chevrolet says the root cause of the Bolt EV fires, something which has affected just over a dozen vehicles out of more than 140,000 Bolt EVs and Bolt EUV models, has now been fixed, how the batteries are now in production, and how we could see Bolt EV owners get a replacement battery pack in a few months' time. And I'm gonna ask the big question. Is it all over? Are Bolt fires a thing of the past? But first, history. Just over 4 years ago, I said a bittersweet goodbye to my original 2002 Toyota RAV4 EV. It was the car that we'd been given to see if it was possible to use a classic electric car as a daily driver. And after 2 battery replacements and some unexplained behaviour, I had reluctantly decided to give Sparky the RAV4 EV up for something a little more modern. Partly because the garage that was helping me keep her on the road had just told me they didn't have any slots for a few months, and if my car had gone wrong, I would have been left with no car at all. I swapped Sparky for a 2017 Chevrolet Bolt EV LT, a car that had been sitting at a local dealership for a number of months and, frankly, was feeling very sorry for itself. Artemis, as I came to call her, had been damaged while being taken off the transporter and had needed a bit of a nose job. But after checking the repair work and deciding it was factory standard, I was able to get a good deal and drove her home, a 3-year lease signed. And since then, Artemis has been pretty reliable, save for an intermittent mystery clunk in the transmission, a couple of weird rapid charging sessions that required a 12-volt battery disconnect to reset, and a couple of faulty ABS sensors that were replaced under warranty. We've had a pretty good time. I've driven Artemis over 60,000 miles in the last 4 years. We've driven to San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego and Las Vegas multiple times from Portland, Oregon, and even managed a road trip to Austin, Texas and back. We've rapid charged more times than I've complained about toxic fanboys and toxic fangirls. I've towed a lot of compost for the garden, and I've probably transported a small forest worth of lumber for my partner to turn into interesting woodworking items. Then, late last year, a few months after we'd made the decision to buy out the lease and keep my little pocket rocket of battery-powered hot hatch goodness, the bad stuff began. News of Chevrolet Bolt EVs catching fire started to spread, pretty much like the fire that engulfed the cars, in fact, and in hushed tones, Chevrolet owners began to ask if there was a problem with their cars. After a few cases of unexpected fires involving Bolt EVs that had decided to become en fuego after being charged to full, GM decided to play it safe. It issued a service campaign to reprogram the battery management system of all 2017 through some 2019 Bolt EVs that it believed were at risk of a fiery end, putting a hard cap on the maximum state of charge those cars could charge to in order to reduce the risk of, you know. All of this happened around the same time as similar fires involving the Hyundai Kona EV, whose battery packs were made by the same company that GM used for the Bolt's battery, LG Energy. Hyundai had a similar software patch for its cars, and it said it was confident that the patch would fix the problem. But it didn't. More fires happened, and after quite a lot of pressure from customers, Hyundai announced a total battery replacement program for the Kona EV. It said that it had found a manufacturing defect responsible for the problem and that it believed it had sourced non-defective batteries to replace the original ones. GM, meanwhile, stated that it didn't have the same battery issue as the Kona EV since it used a slightly different cell chemistry. It stated that it could use software that it had developed to identify the problem, software that would protect the car and its occupants from anything nasty happening. It also poo-pooed the idea of battery replacements and went ahead with programming the new Bolt EV software into all affected cars, removed the charging restriction, and called it job done. Except, as you probably know by now, it wasn't. More cars caught fire, and even those with the new fancy algorithm weren't guaranteed a Dante-less end. So GM's engineers sat down and readdressed the problem, finding not one but two material defects in the battery cells that, when found in the same cell, increased the risk of fires. Within a few months of the previous fix being applied, owners of those same Bolt EVs originally involved in the service campaign and recall were told that they would need to yet again restrict their car's maximum state of charge. But this time, new advice was added. First, owners were asked not to drive below an indicated 70 miles, 113 kilometres of remaining range. Then they were asked to park away from buildings and asked not to charge overnight or unattended. GM straight up admitted that there was a physical defect in the pack and said that owners' cars would be examined by their dealership's technicians for evidence of a faulty pack. If one existed, GM said it would replace faulty modules with new ones. But it soon became apparent that GM did not know how to detect faulty modules without physically destroying them in the first place. So the "some owners might get replacement modules" became a "all owners will get replacement modules fitted in their cars by their local service centre." As the lovely John Kelly from Weber University detailed in this live stream, the time to drop a battery pack from a customer's Bolt, disassemble it, and then reassemble it isn't exactly small. In fact, during our hour-plus chat, we figured out that it would likely take one technician the best part of a day to work on one Bolt, and then several days after that to make sure that the battery was working as it should. It made us question GM's service plan. And if that wasn't enough, bolts made after 2019, bolts that had previously been thought to be clear of this catastrophe, started to catch fire. And that led GM to not only extend the recall through all first-generation Bolt EVs, but also include the brand new 2022 Bolt EV and second-generation Bolt EV to the list as well. That latter action happened earlier this summer, and while many Bolt owners, including myself, had already reached a point where we just about had enough and decided to follow a buyback request or MSRP swap, the change to include all Bolt EV and Bolt EUVs ever made left most people in some kind of limbo. Some Bolt customers reported that the EV concierge stopped calling to give them updates on their buyback request, while others reported that they weren't able to get their car traded in at other car dealerships due to the outstanding recall. Worse still, some unscrupulous Chevrolet dealers were continuing to sell brand new Bolt EVs and Bolt EUVs on their lots, while they weren't allowed under law to let customers drive off in them due to a model-wide stop sale. There was nothing to stop them from selling the cars, promising customers it would only be a few weeks before they could come and pick up their new rides. It was, if you'll excuse the language, an utter shit show, made worse when GM kept pushing back the date at which it would restart production of the Bolt and Bolt EUV, and then told the press that it wouldn't be producing any cars until it was confident LG could produce fault-free cells. If you add to that anecdotal tales of insurance companies increasing premiums for Bolt EV owners, and some definitely not anecdotal tales of parking garages banning Bolts from parking inside, and it's been a pretty sucky time to own a Bolt EV. Last week, GM told owners they should park on the top level of a multi-storey parking garage 50 feet away from other cars if they needed to use such a structure. It led to more garage bans, and frankly, I, like most covering the EV world, said enough was enough. So you can imagine my shock today when we got the news that GM has confirmed that battery cell production has restarted, and Bolt EV and Bolt EUV owners can look forward to getting brand new battery cells in their cars. The time frame of which is still, a little bit vague. According to the official press release, GM says that LG has, quote, implemented new manufacturing processes and has worked with GM to reveal and enhance its quality assurance programs to provide confidence in its batteries moving forwards. LG will institute these new processes in other facilities that will provide cells to GM in the future. It states that Bolt EV and Bolt EUV, whose batteries were made during the specific time frame that GM won't say when or how that was, will be prioritised for battery replacement, with GM notifying customers as soon as replacement modules for those cars are available. In the meantime, GM has reiterated its recommendations for owners to follow to minimise the risk of a fire until their car's battery pack has been dealt with. And interestingly, it's updated its guidance on parking, stating that owners, quote, can park in a location of their choice, adding, in an abundance of caution, GM recommends customers leave ample space around their vehicles whenever they choose to park. GM is not aware of any fires that have occurred where customers followed this safety guidance in parking decks or otherwise. I guess the whole 50-foot thing didn't go down so well, and frankly, this updated advice makes more sense, even though, as I noted last week, you can't stop other people from parking next to your car. Then there's a promise of a new software update, which, similar to previously performed updates, is meant to be able to detect defects at the module level with customers' cars. Eventually, GM hopes to use this to identify faulty modules without requiring all modules within a battery pack to be replaced. After pushing back with a GM spokesperson on this matter earlier today, I was told that, quote, 2017 through 2019 model year Bolt EVs will get 5 new modules and 2020 through 2022 Bolt EVs will get new modules. But that, quote, we are working on a software technology that, if validated and finalised, will allow dealerships' personnel to determine defects on a module level, so if/when that software is completed, we will only replace defective modules on the newer vehicles. But again, that software is not available, end quote. The 5 new modules thing confuses me, but on clarification it appears GM means the entire battery pack's worth of modules. There are 5 bricks of modules in each battery pack, each containing 2 modules, as per John Kelly of Weber University, and based on my conversation with GM's PR team, that's what I think we're talking about, all 10 modules or 5 rows. I also questioned GM on production volumes and timelines, but right now GM says it doesn't have any dates to share. If you are one of the Bolt EV owners with a car that GM believes is at highest risk of fire, you could get a replacement battery pack sooner rather than later. That's fantastic news. But if you're not, it could be a while. GM has said LG has increased its production volume to help make cells as quickly as possible, but since neither company is saying just how many cells and how many modules are being made every day, every week, or every month, it's kind of tough to come up with a predictive timeline. And it doesn't help that GM's Cadillac brand sold out of its first-year allocation of Lyriq EVs in 10 minutes on Saturday, a car that's not even in production yet, and the battery facility for which is not yet finished. Well, it's kind of hard to not feel left out and ignored. Don't misunderstand me. It is fabulous news that GM is finally confident that LG's battery packs are trustworthy and that production can begin again. And I, for one, would love to be a fly on the wall in the discussion as to what the heck went wrong within the facility in the first place. Honestly, it sounds from an outsider's perspective as if LG simply was just being too lax in its battery cell production and quality control, perhaps pushing its facility and its staff beyond acceptable limits, and that only resulted in packs that appeared okay but had serious flaws within them. But that, however, is for another video. Right now, GM is asking you, its customers, to trust that this time the battery packs really will be okay, that the quality control issues have been solved and that the battery packs that are replaced will live a long and a healthy life. Replacement battery packs, by the way, will come with an 8-year, 100,000-mile brand new warranty, which frankly is great news for anyone with a higher mileage Bolt EV. Not to mention the good it may do for retail values when you sell your car, because newer battery packs are a great way of ensuring a higher value on the used car market. And yes, when battery replacements are available for both of my Chevrolet Bolt EVs, we will be there, waiting for a replacement. But does this make everything okay? No. No, it doesn't. GM's communication during this nightmare was frankly diabolical. It screwed up big time. Instead of waiting to be absolutely sure of the solution it first came up with would work, it pushed ahead with a campaign that didn't solve the problem and only served to foster further mistrust. And while the battery faults are squarely on LG, not GM, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise, GM's communication during this last year has been so terrible that many people I know are looking to replace their bolts with another vehicle, very often a gas car, because there simply are no other options of a similar price and spec in the EV world, especially on the used car market. Do I trust these new battery modules? GM says they're fault-free, but, well, my faith has been shattered. And frankly, I'm on the fence. Can I recommend you buy a Bolt EV? Not right now. Maybe I'll feel differently after a few months when we know how good these new battery packs are. But then again, every time I think about it, every time I get behind the wheel, I come back to the same position. I love my Chevrolet Bolt EV. I love its torque curve. I love its handling. And I love how it reminds me of lazy summers bombing down UK roads in a Vauxhall Corsa. There really isn't another car quite like it on the market right now, in terms of driving feel and dynamics and size. Sure, the Kia e-Niro comes close, but the Bolt EV is what I've always wanted to see more of in the EV marketplace. It's a basic, functional car that's big enough for a small family, that can take some significant punishment, be fairly cheap to repair, and leave you with a massive grin on your face. It's almost like I've got Stockholm Syndrome. And I know I'm not the only one. These new batteries will give owners more range that their cars originally had, and a slightly better charging curve, and hopefully a lot less flammability. But after so much disruption, so much misdirection, I'm asking myself if I really want to continue this relationship. I mean, it could all be over, just not the way that Chevy wants it to be. And that's it for today. If you like the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and our other two channels, Transport Evolved Take 2 and Transport Evolved Shorts. We know that while a fair few of you are already subscribed, many more of you aren't, so go on, hit the bell and help us out. Let us know below what you thought of the video, and if you're not someone who likes the YouTube comment section, I mean, who does? Then why not continue this on our Discord server? It is free, and we will leave the link below. Thanks on behalf of the entire TE crew go out to the folks on my right for being our $15 to $49 a month Patreon supporters. Special thanks to our $50 a month patrons. That's David Janakula, Andrew Martin, Guido Drahoa, Brophy Wolf, Tesla in the Gong, Paul Conway, Sean Ueda, Gordon C, Regine Follows, Anonymous Freak, Jim Burness, Carl Hodgson, Anthony Coates, Laura Sanborn, Rory Litwin, and Denny Hyde. And our deepest gratitude to our $100 a month Patreon supporters, John Lyons, Marcel Ward, Reggie Watts, JP Fagerback, Will Graylin, Ellery Hennesley, and Ian. If you are not on the list and you've just become a Patreon supporter, don't worry, you're going to be added to the list very soon. If you'd like to join the ranks of our wonderful supporters, you'll find links below to Patreon, Bitcoin, and Ko-fi, and of course, you can buy your very own TE swag at our Redbubble store. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving!